Good morning. I'm here with tip number 4, checking for learning. So checking for learning is, as it sounds, it's making sure that learning has happened. And how do we do this? I think there's a really good test we can do at the end of each class, which is if you ask yourself, instead of, how did today go, or how was my class today, which is quite teacher-centered, ask yourself, what did the students learn today? And we want to really be reflective about this. So it's probably a natural instinct to immediately go to, well, what did I do to enable learning, or how did I make learning available? But what we really want to do is to say, what did the students actually walk away with? What learning did they engage with? And how do I know? So that's the checking piece. Right? So how do we do that? Well, you can build it into the structure of your class. I know everything is really busy right now and there's a lot to think about and a lot to do. But checking for learning is not an extra thing. It's not an add-on. It is an integral part of the teaching and learning process. It helps you understand how your teaching is hitting the mark. How are you resonating with students? How is the material going over? How are they engaging with content? And this is not answered by asking, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any questions is kind of a superficial question, and you may find that if you ask it, you don't really get much uptake, or you might get a simple response. So what we want to do is we want to ask powerful questions about learning. And we can do that by verbally asking a question, but again, that might not reach all of the students. So we want to build in some kind of activity that helps us to check and really check and follow up with each and every learner in our class. One thing you can do is build that into the beginning of class to see, what did you learn last time? And you can do that even with new content by doing a kind of a pre-assessment at the beginning of your lesson. So finding out what students already know about what's to come. And that can help you to plan your teaching. It can help you to plan what kind of content you need to include. It can also help you to eliminate anything that's unnecessary because the students may have already learned it elsewhere. So that's one good way, is to start a lesson with checking for learning. Another way is to end the class with some kind of an exit pass strategy, or some kind of an activity that gets the students really reflecting on what they've just done, what they've just engaged in, what learning just occurred. And not all learning is going to happen in the class moment, as we know. But let's say you structure some independent learning during class, or some breakout rooms, some teamwork, making sure that there's an opportunity for students to come back at the end of that activity or at the end of the lesson to debrief, to discuss, to really dig in and think about, what did I just learn today? Another way to do that is to ask students, what is still unclear for you at the end of this class? And that's a strategy that we sometimes refer to as the muddiest point. What was the most confusing thing, or the thing that you learned today that's still not quite clear to you, that you're going to need to do some more work on? As a coach, we also talk a lot about accountability. And as an instructor or a teacher, you can build in some accountability for new learners, or learners who are inexperienced in directing their own learning. So you can build in accountability, you can create low stakes testing opportunities, you can have things built into assignments where the students need to tell you what they learned. You can also start to guide them towards building in their own accountabilities by asking questions like, what does accountability look like for you? When are you going to act on this? What's your next move in terms of furthering your own learning? What questions are you going to answer for yourself, and by when? So I hope that gives you a little bit of food for thought about checking for learning. It's a really important accountability measure for us as teachers and faculty, to make sure that we can walk away comfortably knowing what our students learned in each and every class, so that we can plan around that, we can adjust, we can adapt, we can grow, we can identify our own learning goals. So please get in touch with me if you want to talk about that more, and join us tomorrow for tip number 5. See ya.